The point of this trialogue is to have a reflection on some of the key problems for museums communicating climate change. What sort of transformations or shifts might be needed to have your resources, your style of doing things, dealing with the theme of climate change?
So this exhibit here is the idea of taking the skyscraper. The skyscrapers don't live in isolation. They're part of an urban context. And there are people who plan those urban contexts. And we, as citizens, often participate in that planning and city planning meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So what this interactive does here is that you're able to choose how would you plan your city by either bringing on houses onto a city block, apartment buildings, or a skyscraper. And as you see, as we bring in more skyscrapers, little subway signs so mass transit starts to come up. If you bring on more houses, you get another car, so representing that usually houses represent a need for private transportation in those systems. And what happens is that as you change these things, we are measuring 4 aspects of it. One is livability, one is land usage, one is heating and cooling efficiency, and one is transportation efficiency.
One of the things about exhibitions is it's worth repeating any message, and so just because you put something on the front door, a lot of people will walk past and never see this sign. And so what we try and do is then make sure that notion of survivors of millions of years of change comes out throughout the exhibition in various different ways.
In a way, though, you could say that surviving Australia seems to be Australia's is the problem, and species have survived it, whereas it's really Australia surviving is the climate change.
Well, you can read it both ways. You can read it both ways, and for a continent which has gone through, for instance, major episodes in drying compared to how it was historically, you could say that the continent's the problem there. The animals have had to adapt. I mean, the other way of doing it is that for those animals, these circumstances aren't extreme. It's just what they're adapted to, you know.
This first sentence, though, how much do you know about, seems to be foregrounding a kind of taxonomic activity. So this is going to be a school lesson, and after this, we won't have any understanding of climate change one way or the other. We'll just have more beetles or bugs.
And what I would say is another objective of this exhibition, and something that was very important in the way that we have conceived of this exhibition, is working to produce an exhibition which people who were local to the Sydney area would embrace and want to visit again and again, as well as providing something which an overseas visitor who wanted to see a kangaroo and a koala and the standard things would see. And so what we've sought to do all the way to this exhibition is work both for that overseas audience and for that local audience. Now, when we did a lot of front-end audience research before we embarked on the development of this exhibition with both our tourists and our locals. And what we found, particularly with the local audience, was that the very things that the overseas audience, people wanted to see, kangaroos, koalas, the local audience felt they'd had enough of. A little bit like the Barrier Reef. They felt they'd heard that story, they'd heard about the evolution of kangaroos. What they wanted to hear about were the things that they didn't know anything about. They wanted us to surprise them. And so when we start off with a sentence like this, how much do you know about the hundreds of thousands of bouncing, flying, crawling, swimming animals that call Australia home? What we're starting to do is to set up that aspect, that actually this is an exhibition where you'll find out about the things that you didn't know about before.
One of the things that's interesting to me is how do you show time? We've just got milk, which has been with us forever, briquettes, which have not. How do you sort of, in hitting people, say to them, this is no longer how we do things? Because that's a crucial climate change message.
Yeah, there's 2 things there though. One is the milk is in the bottle, which we rarely get anymore.
Right.
And 2, the briquettes, as David said, are something that have become extinct in their own right. Although coal is still a major industry for Victoria, briquettes are something we just don't use anymore, and thank God for museums that actually have things like briquettes in their collections to remind people of the way we used such a commodity in our everyday lives.
What I'm wanting to circle around to is not a critique of this, but as a provocation. How would you communicate these messages which come from you too, but they're not in the exhibition itself? So how do you communicate this sort of thing as a museum?
Well, we're creating some new galleries at the moment. Something like an $8 million redevelopment of the Life and Sciences galleries. And the focus of that, one of the major focuses will be a gallery called Biodiversity and Climate Change. And we want to present the different environments of Victoria, snapshots of what lives there, or what live there, and how they are going to be affected with the forthcoming changes in the climate and also the loss of water and the loss of habitat.